So I had a little bit of an idea last time in the last tutorial, because I showed you the old system, the old GRM Tools kind of suite of units. And as I said at the time, I've used those for quite some time, and I've got some favourites in there. I particularly like Fusion, Evolution and Grain Space. And so I thought it might be quite nice to marry the two systems together. So let's have Atelier doing what Atelier does, and then maybe just string those three units onto the end of it and see what we can come up with. So this is, in a sense, less of a tutorial, more of an exploration of how that kind of all fits together. And also, I guess it's like a live performance, if you like, just kind of slowly exploring the units. So it's a wet day in Nottingham today, so I've recorded a little bit of my wet day. So the sample inside GRM Play begins with some rain on my brolly, standing next to a kind of a drain pipe, all dribbly, and then getting home and taking my coat off quite noisily, I suppose intentionally quite noisily, and then some handling noise of the microphone at the end. So Atelier is kind of scooting around that and coming up with some kind of really interesting stuff, which is going into GRM pitch and having a little bit of a mess around there, and then the comb. So this is a patch that you'll recognise from some of the previous explorations videos, and so I've done very little tweaking. I'm just kind of running it through there as a starting point. I'm getting a nice kind of generative patch, kind of making the most of that wet weather, and the kind of boingy sound is obviously coming from the comb there, which is a nice addition. So let's. I'm going to upload the audio version of this to SoundCloud, and so you can just hear it as a piece of music. And I'll open it up with the full 20-second sample as it is, just to kind of to let you hear how this is morphed from real life into kind of GRM life, if you like. So let's have a look at Fusion and see what we can do with that. At the moment the mix is on 0, so it's not actually doing anything, but we can turn that mix up and see what we'll get. And the first thing you'll notice is that we'll lose a lot of the top end because of the way it's set up there. And that kind of sweeping effect that you get because of the slope. And I've set up the morph control, so you'll recognise this from the Atelier system, but there's a morph control here, and these presets, which I've preset, and so let's move on to preset 2, and it'll drift there, and I think it was on something like 16 seconds, yeah, 16 seconds. So let's go to morph to 2. It's a really nice kind of drifting spectral thing that goes on. And that's picking up, as you can see, more of the top end, and hopefully you can hear that too. So that's Fusion doing its crazy stuff. Let's move on to number 3. And again, the intention here is to make a bit of a drifty kind of exploration of rain sounds, if you like. So this is all going down and being kind of interesting. So let's introduce a little bit of evolution. So evolution's a wonderful little unit. Again, at the moment the mix is on 0, but it's capturing the sound, and then depending where your cursor is, it'll evolve that sound really slowly, and kind of it's just a really interesting effect. I'll just turn up the mix and let you hear what it's doing, and then I'll hit evolution and let you hear what it does. So hopefully you can see the sound there as the spectrum. Let's just move the cursor up a little bit. That was a nice involuntary quiet bit in the piece. So when I get a little bit of a loud bit, to turn that mix down so that we can hear more of the original Atelier through there. There we go. You can kind of hear the coat taking off sounds at there. Okay, as that kind of gets a little bit louder, let's capture some of that into the evolution. And what's nice about the evolution is that once it's in there, once the sounds are in there, you can mess with them. Okay, and then just going to bring that mix up, and I'm going to hit evolution, and you can hear what it does. So it kind of like freezes the sound, then slows it down. But once it's in there also, you can start to just morph it around a little bit, which is really fascinating. I think it's a really nice effect, and it's see, this is the drifty section of the piece. So let's just let that evolve and do its interesting stuff. And let's just add in the grain space. So this is the space element. So it's set up to go and the mix is on 0, so I'll just increase that, start to here, space. And I have to say that one thing that I'm missing from the Atelier system is this this kind of reverberation, the space thing, and I'm sure they're going to introduce a module soon that will take care of that. Wonderful. So I'm going to hit evolution and then we're going to go back into, and then let's just have another preset here. Wonderful drifty ambient loveliness. So I'm going to capture that in the evolution thing just by clicking now. And of course you don't have to have it full on like we have. We can kind of mix it back in a little bit. So you get a nice mix of the two. So I've got the crazy stuff that the Fusion's doing, but we can also reduce that mix and have some of that original sound in there as well. You see there's some kind of really fascinating kind of spectral stuff going on here. I'm sure there'd be many ways of creating something like this without these tools. Well, not easily anyway. And I just really like the just drifting around, and it almost feels like kind of moulding clay, kind of messing with the sound. It's really fascinating. So I'm just clicking and dragging here, just to kind of change that sound. Just going to change the Fusion again, and the mix will come back up. And then turn the evolution off. And then maybe turn that down a little bit so we've got the original. I'm going to draw the piece to a bit of a close, and I'll do that by hitting evolution. Oh, I like that zip noise. Suddenly got wild. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to hit evolution now. Here we go. And then just fade that in so that it's all like a nice little wop. And I'm going to mess with the cursor and just bring that down low, starting to finish off the piece. And I'll leave the reverberation type effect going, and then just reduce the gain on here, and that will be the end of the piece, all drifting away. There we go. Okay, as I say, I'll upload that to SoundCloud, and so you can hear it as a piece, and without me yattering over the top of it. And I hope that was fun. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.